It's an Archaeodeath monthly review with Professor Howard Williams.
Hello, Archaeodeathlings, and welcome to my fourth, I believe it is, monthly roundup for Archaeodeath on YouTube. Now, you'll know that I have my Archaeodeath blog on WordPress, I have my TikTok channel, and I have this YouTube channel where I've been posting 4 to 6 or so videos per month, plus these roundups that hopefully give you all the latest information about my work, my ideas as a researcher and a teacher in the field of mortuary archaeology and related fields in early medieval archaeology, contemporary archaeology, archaeologies of death, memory and commemoration more broadly, archaeologies of remembrance. So within that context, and as that introduction suggests, this is a lot about past societies and their relationship with us, how we remember them and how they remembered. So this is about the archaeology of past communities' remembrances, how they constructed their myths, their legends, their stories, and also about us and how we construct ours. So the archaeology of memory and death links together public archaeology, contemporary archaeology, heritage with the study of past societies, how they changed, how they evolved, how they became more complex or became less complex over time. So with that introduction for you, let me give you a roundup of what I've been doing in the last month on this on my various platforms. So maybe you can go off and you can explore some of this yourself in your own time. So let's shift over and to start off by talking about my YouTube channel. Now thank you very much if you subscribe already. I've got 230 subscribers, which is a really nice number for me. I really didn't expect this to take off beyond 2 figures, let alone 3 figures, let alone into the 200s plus. So I think that this is providing a service and giving people an insight into mortuary archaeology and related fields. Now, in the last month, as you can see, I have done, since my last monthly June review, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 videos. I did one on Anglo-Saxon as a term, which is one of my specialist areas of early medieval archaeology, the study of Anglo-Saxon archaeology or the Anglo-Saxon period, southern and eastern Britain from the 5th to the 11th centuries. And this has been a focus of considerable controversy in recent months. And here I present in this video, I present my views on the debate up until about 2015, 2016, and my take on when it is okay to use the term and when it's not so good using the term. Obviously, things have moved on from that, and I may come back to this, but I've got various publications and blog posts out about this topic already. As topic I have addressed on my blog in previous contexts, in previous blog posts, has been the archaeology of displaying the dead in a post called "Should Archaeology Encourage Morbid Curiosity?" Often we will see in popular context archaeologists saying, "Oh no, we're not interested in morbid curiosity. We're interested in the scientific analysis of human remains from the past to gain insights into past cultures and societies." And while that's not wrong, my point I'm trying to make is that morbid curiosity should not be seen as a dirty thing. With the rise of the death positive movement, with the increasing awareness that we as a society in the late 20th and early 21st centuries are struggling with how we engage with the materiality of death, with mourning processes, with bereavement, with the mortality of ourselves and others, archaeology is an important and valuable avenue for not only understanding past societies but understanding our own mortality and our future mortalities, to debate how we should mourn, how we should commemorate, how we should structure our landscapes to commemorate the dead in the future, if at all. So what I'm trying to say there is that rather than shy away from morbid curiosity, archaeology should definitely foster an intellectual and engaged interest in death, not a ghoulish, "ooh, look, there's a dead body," but a more using the dead as a mechanism, a gateway into exciting questions of relevance to understanding past societies and our own human condition. I then did a couple of book reviews. One book of my own, my first edited collection from 2003, Archaeologies of Remembrance, Death and Memory in Past Societies. And in that video, I give a little introduction to that book from 2003, some of the strengths I feel. I think the book has intellectual merit still today, has a range of case studies from prehistory to the 20th century, yet its price and the quality of production perhaps were not what I had anticipated. But I was a rookie then in terms of editing, and I stand by the contents, if not the cover price and the venue in which it appears. But I've learned perhaps not to work with certain publishers. Anyway, that book is covered there. And now, because it's out in paperback for the first time, I've also done a video review of a 9-year-old book. So it appeared in hardback in 2011. Now it's in paperback, still very expensive at 35 quid, but actually affordable given that it's got 50 plus chapters, I think it is. The Oxford Handbook of Anglo-Saxon Archaeology, and this speaks to my stance on how we use responsibly and critically the term Anglo-Saxon within early medieval archaeology and broader archaeological debates. Many other fields and specialists will have heard of Anglo-Saxon archaeology. They may not have understand what early medieval archaeology really is, and because the burial data is particularly rich and interesting from that period, and it's been used as a focus of scientific analysis and quantitative and qualitative analysis of burial mortuary variability. Everyone's heard of Anglo-Saxon archaeology worldwide for many reasons, but particularly because of that burial element. And I contributed a chapter to this book, and I'm very proud of it. And I think it gives a good survey of some aspects of the funerary record from the 5th to the early 7th centuries. There's other chapters that do that too, and it's a good book. Now, my last two videos of July, one was on an update on the Offa's Dyke Journal. Now, this is a journal, a brand new academic journal, where it's a year old now. We've got one full volume out, and we're working on the second one. I co-edit it with Liam Delaney, who's Herefordshire's Historic Environments Officer and also a part-time doctoral researcher at the University of Chester. And I designed the journal as part of the Offa's Dyke Collaboratory Initiative so that there's an open access venue for publishing archaeological work on linear earthworks, frontiers and borders, past and present. So I think that this is an important venue, and I want to keep doing video updates to make it clear. There's a lot of people rightly chirping on about how archaeology is inaccessible and how do we get new voices, new perspectives. Well, one of the things is having good information available to anyone, regardless of their age, gender, ethnicity, or anything else, so that they can actually learn about monuments. And while obviously I do specialist courses at universities, as in my day job, so to speak, I also want to share that information to broader communities up and down Offa's Dyke and Watts Dyke, but also across the world, because many of the debates and discussions that historians, archaeologists, and others are having about ancient frontiers are pertinent to the study of more recent contemporary frontiers and borderlands. There are major differences too, but there's also similarities. So I've done a video on that. And my last video, I did a Twitter poll, and my Twitterati decided that I should do hogbacks again. Now, I've covered hogbacks in earlier videos, discussing my 2015 book, Early Medieval Stone Monuments, edited with Joe Curtin and Megan Gondek. But I come back to it to discuss a 2016 journal article in the European Journal of Archaeology that looks at hogback stone. So what I've done in this overview so far is giving you that sense of my last 6 video posts and the kind of things I cover on this YouTube channel. So you have got here discussions about the past, about monuments and how we interpret them and artifacts, as well as some of the resources that are available that I've produced and others have produced to allow you to engage and understand the human past and how archaeologists approach death and memory. And I've also talked about some key themes that link the past and how we operate as archaeologists today. So the public-facing nature of archaeology, public archaeology. Okay, so I hope that gives you a sense of that. And of course, there's many previous videos. I've only been going 3 months, but as well as I started off on the 4th of April with the Trevonan Heritage Day, looking at Offa's Dyke, which had to go digital rather than to be a day event. So that's where I started doing my YouTubing. And then you've got subsequent videos on a range of sites I've visited, such as Watts Dyke at Wrexham and Erddig, a series of short short videos I took out in the field, as well as reviews of my work, as well as I take on some big debates about how we interpret the archaeological record and some other sundry topics. So hopefully there's lots there for you to be interested in. Now I do want to also in this video review my blog, my WordPress blog, where it all started back in 2013. So in the last month, as in most months, I've been doing 15 blog posts, and again I try to pick a variety of subjects, although this month there's been a real bias towards my reviews of TV pop culture references to mortuary remains and archaeology. So on the 3rd of July, I posted my blog post summation of my videos on TikTok and YouTube on the debate about defend the memorials or topple the racists. Now you can, I won't say anything further about that. I've already talked about that. But of course, in the last month and a half, 2 months, there's been a sustained and enhanced set of micro debates across the world, and also broader debates covering different fields and interests in whether we should topple or remove, in how we should remove statuary and other kinds of monuments that are deeply offensive and commemorate racist individuals, racist subjects. And so I address that from my perspective. I don't cover every aspect, and I use a case study, but go and look at that if that's a topic you've been reading about. Then I suppose my point at the end of the day is that there shouldn't be a single perspective that covers all monuments, that we're going to have lots of local negotiations and lots of local discussions, and these should be healthy and hopefully not too polemicized, but they will be inevitably. But there are some genuine questions that we need to face about how these monuments persist in our landscapes and whether they should persist. And this is central to the MA Archaeology of Death and Memory that I run with colleagues at the University of Chester, and my research and teaching about what are monuments and how do they have a biography, a sustained power. They may come to mean very different things from what they were intended to mean. So going, no, it's not racist, it was never intended to be racist, it isn't always the point. Anyway, I then did a little anecdote from my past. Mr. Baseman almost got me killed. Bit of exaggeration there, but I talk about one of my fieldwork projects as a student and the jukebox in the local pub that almost led to blows. Then I move into some of my archaeology and popular culture posts. So I've got the archaeology in the Fast show, the 90s TV show, and then specials into the early noughties. There's actually quite a lot of archaeological references, and I sort of try to compile those and point out how some of the locations, some of the themes, some of the parodies are still funny today, in my view, and also linked to archaeological and heritage subjects and how they're presented to the public. So check out that. And then I get back to The Walking Dead. Now, The Walking Dead I've pursued in about 35, 40 blog posts, looking at how the TV show and the comics before them. I came to the comics after the TV show, I confess. I knew they existed, but I didn't actually watch them or read them, sorry, until I'd sort of seen how big a phenomenon this was becoming. I look in these posts at season 9 of The Walking Dead. No spoilers, send me. I haven't seen season 10 yet. Okay, I'm a bit behind, but season 9 deals with more interesting mortuary archaeology topics. They go into a museum, and while they shy away from actually discovering or dealing with human remains, they do encounter the Walking Dead in the museum. And I comment on a particular geekish nerd citation scene, the Walk of Evolution, and a zombie pinned to the end of it there. Yeah, and then I also talk about the Whispering Cemetery and Hilltop Cemetery and Alexandria Cemetery as represented in season 9. And I think the way, while it's not explicit, in the background for a lot of the show, some careful thought, intelligent consideration has gone into how they're showing the evolution of the mortuary landscapes, how these characters and their communities are disposing of the dead, memorializing the dead, and remembering graves of characters we knowed and loved, or didn't like too much, but at least we knew who they were, as well as the broader cemetery landscape. And then I finish off with the heads on stakes motif, which comes in the comic books and in the TV show in season 9. There's a compendium, volume 3, that I've got. It ends with, or near ends with, the heads on stakes, the warning by the whisperers to the hilltop and Alexandria and the kingdom. and with a deterrent of putting heads on stakes. And I reflect on the early medieval sort of evidence for that briefly. And an exciting blog post by Dr. Thies Pork, who has from Leiden, who has actually already reviewed that issue. And then I move on to and then reflect on what this tells us about the barbarian world view of the Walking Dead, that frontier society, reflecting those that retain a civilized, what the TV show is telling us is civilized sort of set of values and behaviors, trying to be part of a society, and the whisperers who sort of have renounced human modes of social structure. And that they do barbarian things like put heads on stakes. When I made the point that actually in the early Middle Ages, it's Christian civilized communities that are doing the head staking, actually as much or more than the pagan Sax barbarian Norse or anything, or the Vikings, So anyway, there's interesting plays to be had about our perception of what is barbarian. Now I stick with my review of TV shows with another look at The Last Kingdom season 4, and I've got a couple of more posts I want to do about The Last Kingdom season 4, but I think looking at the way that King Alfred's tomb is represented in the TV show is really interesting, because it's about 2.5 centuries too soon for an effigy tomb to be in the British landscape. But they needed something that showed the visage, showed the sort of physical features and of the dead king, so that they could have that personal interaction between the living characters and the tomb. So I talk about how the fictional world of the late 9th century, early 10th century, The Last Kingdom, depicts the tomb of Alfred the Great, something that doesn't exist in the real world. We don't have it surviving. I also then do a publication review of the Pseudoarchaeology and Linear Earthworks. This is part of the Offa's Dyke Journal Volume 2. This is a bit of Watts Dyke near a hotel in New Brighton. And I make the point, and Keith Fitzpatrick Matthews has just published an article in Offa's Dyke Journal Volume 2. So this is a publication launch blog post. So go and read that in the Offa's Dyke Journal. Just Google Offa's Dyke Journal. I then celebrate the fact that TikTok has taken off this month. Yay! So I started off with TikTok. I'm now up to about 1,200 and something followers, which is modest, but I think effective. And it's showing that I'm reaching a different kind of audience to those that would follow me on here and those that would follow me on my blog and Twitter and so on. And I'm very pleased about this. So yay for me. Yay for it's already much higher than that. But on TikTok, I've been doing short videos of places I've been, issues that I'm interested in, and some funny ones and some ones that just amuse only me, to communicate some of my research. I then do a general blog post just to reintroduce people to something that should be clear if you've been following my blog and my posts for many, many years, including my publications. Why study cremation in past societies? Why is it relevant to study cremation, which is actually, until last 2 decades, really under-investigated by archaeologists amongst the other death ways that we have in the archaeological record? And then why does it relate to us today? Well, we are cremating nations, and in the UK, we're almost up to 80% cremating, and I think the COVID pandemic is going to knock that forward, and I think we're going to have an increased cremation, a jump in the frequency of cremation across the nation in 2019-20. I think figures. We will see that. We don't have those figures yet, but we'll see that, I think, given the changing death ways and organisation of death due to the excessive death toll caused by the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. So I just sort of an overview reminding you of why I study cremation and why it's relevant, because a lot of people say, oh, it's a very niche and bizarre area. So, well, look, we're a cremating nation, as most of the world has gone cremating in the 20th and 21st century. Even the US is now a majority cremating nation. This is a big topic for our current society and for our future, whether we like it or not. Cremation is a big thing. Oh yeah, then I go back to review more TV shows. So I start jumping into season 6, part 1 of Vikings, and look at the deposition of weapons and Lagertha, and what happens to her sword in the TV show. And I make the point that this is, while there is weapon deposition going on in Viking Scandinavia and pre and late Iron Age Scandinavia more broadly, her personal deposition of a sword and retrieval of it again is more sort of a Western than it is saga. Well, that's my take on it. It's more sort of a gunslinger than anything else. That's very interesting. And then I jump into more reviews of TV show because I've watched them over, and actually in some ways I prefer them to The Walking Dead. Fear the Walking Dead. Now this is a spin-off TV show from The Walking Dead. It's frustrating in many ways and darker and grimmer than other ways. I'm just rewatching season threes and fours, and my God, some of it makes sense and some of it is just stupid, but it's really good. And so season one and season two, I've started looking at how that TV show portrays the death culture, and surprise, surprise, it follows very much the same template of The Walking Dead. Cremation is bad, is anonymous, mass destruction and use of by baddies, or to just dispose of the unnamed dead, whereas inhumation or burial at sea, in one case, is the respectful mode of disposing of the dead whom you you know their names, even if they've turned into zombies, they are still individuals that you knew, and you offer them a death ritual. And then finally, I'll talk about that next month, because then I get onto my August blog posting, because I'm a few days late because of some family domestic issues, and also because I've been busy doing research. So that's my review of the videos. That's my review of uh, the blog itself. I do want to go through a few other things that I've been doing, if I may, and things that have been going on in Professor Williams' world, in Archaeodeath world. I suppose one of the things I should say, there's lots of sort of small bits of news coming out this month. I attended my first full digital conference a few weeks back, The Borders of Early Medieval England, organised by Dr. Ben Guy of the University of Cambridge. And Ben and I and Liam are going to be collaborating on publishing the proceedings of that in the Offersdyke Journal, which is mainly a digital journal, but it will physically appear as a journal, as a physical product published through Archaeo Press. But we're doing a digital journal first, and Ben is contacting authors to create a special issue. So our volume 4 for 2022, I think it will be, if I'm right, I'm getting my numbers right, will be the proceedings of this conference. Okay, there's other things that I could tell you about that have come to the fore. This month has seen the publication of this book. Now, I can't do a review and an evaluation of every book that's come out, but this relates very much to my region and my area, my interest. Old Oswestry Hill Fort and its landscape, Ancient Past, Uncertain Future, edited by Tim Malem and George Nash. So congratulations to them. It's by Archaeo Press publication. Evocative front cover showing you the prehistoric hill fort, and chapters that review the prehistory and also the more recent history of the landscape, and also the folklore, legends, nature conservation, and other aspects of the monument and its future, because it's under threat from development in the vicinity of the hill fort. So that's really an important collection, I think, if anyone's interested in the Anglo-Welsh borders or Shropshire, or the Offersdyke, Wattsdyke, because of course Wattsdyke runs into and out of Old Oswestry Hill Fort. It's reused by the Mercian Frontier work, and Tim Malem has a chapter on Wattsdyke in here. Anyone that's interested in that type of thing, I just wanted to flag up that book publication. There's many other things coming out. What else can I tell you about? Well, I've been pursuing more lockdown material cultures and seeing more examples of that, and I'll be blogging about that in due course. I do want to point out there's been a CBA Festival of Archaeology this month. I decided not to engage with it this year, not because I'm a member of the CBA and supporter of the CBA, but frankly, I've got my own YouTube channel. They don't need more of me bashing away, answering people's questions. There's plenty of other new voices doing that, but I did chime in with a few answers on Twitter to the archaeology questions asked of archaeologists. But there's been many other, and the whole archaeological community has gone digital in a whole variety of ways, and it's very positive in that regard, I think, to see that. And I wanted to note that on this video, that we've had another successful, despite the pandemic lockdown, CBA Festival of Archaeology. We're all under threat, though. No, the future's uncertain. Many businesses have lost masses. The education sector, the HE sector, we're all on uncertainty. And I think some universities are going to use as an excuse to bash academics again. There's still an appetite in the country to deride academic research. People have happily been saying that none of us have been working through the lockdown, even though we've been working our butts off doing research, doing teaching preparation. we're doing lots of things, and yet, of course, it's very easy to sort of say, "Oh, well, you're not doing anything." I'm on here. This is part of what I've been trying to achieve, but no, it's never enough. And I know of some departments already, humanities departments are being closed. In my view, at this very uncertain time, the last thing we need to be doing is bashing each other, but presenting a united front for the value of the humanities, whether it's geography, English, history. I see humanities and social sciences blurring together very much. I know that some of those subjects won't see themselves as humanities, but it's the study of the human condition, the study of human culture and arts and life. Archaeology is a social science, a science and a humanity. So I see myself with history, but also with anthropology, with many of these other subjects. Perhaps I should make that point clear. But I think we can all work together to show the cross-disciplinary linkages and values of studying the human condition and the human past. And archaeology is in many ways a bridge between all these other subjects, because we're the one subject that links together the big human story, big themes from the last few million years to our condition today. And that's what I was talking about when I was referring earlier to cremation being one of those themes, or the study of how fire has been used to transform and adapt dead bodies and part of mourning culture and ritual practice. So it's particularly frustrating for me to hear the news from Portsmouth and Gloucestershire universities, and they're already ahead with plans. Winchester as well. Other universities using the pandemic as a time to cut out or reduce the humanities. I would say this is the time when we need to invest in not only the science and training scientists to work in the fields of medicine and related fields, engineering and so on, but we also need people to explain history, to explain prehistory, to explain environment, to explain material culture, so that students and future critical thinkers can understand our complex human story and plan for our futures, our shared futures. Maybe I'm not saying anything radical there if you're already aware of the value of these subjects, but there's long been a growing hatred of the humanities, and this is just the pandemic is another opportunity for those voices to bash us. So it's particularly depressing to see the some of the more extreme, egotistical, and quite honestly vicious voices on social media from the humanities still banging on in this time of crisis for us about their own personal agendas and narrow agendas, and using abuse in horrible ways. And I talked about this in last month's reviews, but you can't, whatever you think about cancel culture, whatever you think about race issues and ethnicity issues, your particular political or social stance doesn't justify you being personally abusive to others. And again, a couple of weeks ago, we saw another disturbing example of that, of a newly passed PhD student trying to enter into a social media discussion and being called racial slurs. And rather than saying, "Oh, sorry, I didn't mean it that way. Look, the issue is bigger than that. Let's get on with that," the individual making the slur says, "No, it's not racist. I get to decide what's racist or not on in my public profile." And as long as we indulge this in the humanities, we're going to be on the back foot against everybody else and look like a bunch of amateurs and look like a bunch of clowns and petty infighters. We're not going to be able to present a united front against the real threats facing our subject and facing what our subject is trying to do in contemporary society, whether it's with an anti-racist agenda or it's an environmental agenda. We're not going to make those voices heard if all we're doing is using negative slurring and against each other. I think this is disrespectful to the utmost. So I'm not going to go and cite who did this and where, but you can find out for yourself. If you want to look at my Twitter feed, you can look anywhere else. And this is just abysmal. It's coming from the same characters. Surprise, surprise. But there's a lot of people that indulge these people and still open to debate with them, and that's what really annoys me. And I think we really have to just stop, ignore them, move on, and let's talk positive about the many exciting things we can study about the human past. And these characters have nothing new to say, and they will fall to the wayside. And hopefully, the broader audiences we're trying to connect to will actually listen to voices of reason rather than those that spew hate and rhetoric. So this is a time of there's going to be a challenging few months, and one where we have to be very responsible and careful about what we say and how we say it. And that's why I want to continue with this YouTube channel and try to spread some positivity and some kindness, but also ask some demanding and critical questions of ourselves as academics and our audiences. So what am I working on then moving forward? Well, I've got the Offers Dyke Journal I've been working on. I've got papers coming out in that myself, which have been through peer review organised by my co-editor. I've also been working on the Public Archaeology of Frontiers and Borderlands volume from last year's student volume proceedings. And this is going to have some student contributions and it's going to have some academic contributions. And despite having some performative withdrawals earlier this year from some academics who felt they had to not be associated with the book, this book is going to be really exciting. We've got some very prestigious archaeologists involved and also some new faces and new names coming through. So I'm co-editing with Pauline Clark again for the second book, who's now my doctoral student, and Kieran Gleave, who is a graduate of the University of Chester, to edit together the fourth um, edited collection that stems from a University of Chester Archaeology Student Conference. I'm very pleased about that. That's going forward. That should be out this year. I've also started work on the fifth, which was earlier this year. We had a digital conference, a Twitter event combined with the Grosvenor Museum conference, the Public Archaeology of Treasure. And we're pulling together the papers. I've got to write mine in the next few weeks for the fifth, and I think will probably be the final student proceedings that I do. I think I'm very proud of doing them, but it's taking up a massive amount of work, and I've got other projects to do. I think the students have benefited, I've benefited, other contributors have found distinctive volumes, but I think five is a lot of edited volumes, and five in well, 3 years probably is a massive workload for me, as you can appreciate. I'm very proud of them, but enough is enough. So my final one, the Public Archaeology of Treasure, stemming from that conference in Chester at the end of January, I'm very excited by, and I'm going to be co-editing with. Well, looks like I'm going to be co-editing with a new student, a new one of the student group, but a new person, and possibly, and well, I think almost clearly, one of our guest discussant, Peter Reevil of the Portal Antiquities Scheme, is going to be co-editing the Public Archaeology of Treasure book with me. So that's really exciting. I'm also working on another new project. This is actually the first time I've mentioned it, uh, with a doctoral researcher from the Netherlands called Cremation in the Early Middle Ages. And this stems from a workshop Femke Lippok organised in December 2018, I think it was, at Leiden. And we are now editing a book together that draws together the latest information and ideas about cremation in the early Middle Ages. So watch this space. That will be probably in the next couple of years. That will be coming out. That's very pleased and excited that Femke wants to work with me on that project. Now let me think. What else is there to tell you about? So much going on. Yeah, I suppose some point I've got to get back to writing my monographs. I've got my second and third monographs I want to write, but I've been busy with so much collaboration with so many exciting new scholars and existing scholars. I haven't made progress. I've got a monograph on contemporary death and a monograph on material culture and monumentality in the early Middle Ages that I've long promised to work on. I think it's going to be 4 or 5 years before I actually get through to doing those, but I might mention them occasionally, whether it's just to say that I've made no progress or I'm moving on them, but I hope to keep my audiences aware of those developments in due course. I'll tell you what I want to finish off today, though, and if I can, my doctoral researcher, my former doctoral researcher, because he's now passed, Dr. Brian Costello, uh, uh, gave me a wonderful gift. And I'm very touched by this. I didn't have to do this, but he got me a framed original art by John G. Swagger. Now, John I'm working with is an archaeologist and artist, and he does a lot of comics, and he secretly collaborated with John to create this 4-piece artwork called the Doctorate of the Rings, which sort of gives a little characterization of me and Brian Costello marching through the landscape looking for linear earthworks, and up the tower at Repton filming for the Vikings, Britain's Viking Graveyard TV show, and then finally facing the dark powers of I don't know what, anything, I don't know, with a wonderful little he's got his doctorate and his sword is shining brightly to face off the powers of evil, whoever they may be. So I thought I just had to share. I'm so delighted with this. I haven't decided where I'm going to hang this yet, but thanks, Brian. I really appreciate that. A very, very touching gift. And thanks, John, for doing the art. It's wonderful. So um, that's really all I wanted to say about this month. I'm going to keep going with this YouTube channel, whether you like it or not. And I do hope you stay with me. Um, check out the WordPress blog. Check out TikTok if you feel inclined, because yeah, TikTok's going strong. Let me just get back to that. How am I doing on TikTok now? I go to my profile, away from the random cats. Oh yeah, I'm doing all right. I've got 1,213 followers and lots of videos on all sorts of things, fun, silly, and interesting. I hope so. TikTok, YouTube, WordPress, and hopefully I'll be seeing you soon for more of those. Take care.
If you've enjoyed this Archaeodeath video, why not check out the Archaeodeath blog at howardwilliamsblog.wordpress.com.